What's something that is incredibly unhealthy that most people don't even realize? I work for a railroad. This is why over 100k of us were about to go on strike last week. For over 100 years many of us have worked on call 24/7 with no set schedule. I might work midnight to noon today and 3 AM to 3 PM 15 hours later. It's horrible. But the work is interesting and the pay and benefits decent. My old man was the bigwig of a company a few years ago that had shifts and the pay went up exponentially for nights, but he noticed the guys and gals getting burnt out real quick. He ended the night shift but upped their pay slightly to compensate for the lack of extra money. I know at one of the jobs I had it was because if someone quit or called out, that shift would be shorter work. I found out after I quit I caused a cascade where most of the veteran day shift team quit. This was a clinical lab, so workload was temporarily cut to a third of typical output while they scrambled to train people on night shift to work on day shift. It was an absolute shit show. Exactly. If you have to, by law, have a person there, then your job as an employer is to hire enough people that one person not showing up doesn't result in no one being there. The legal onus is, or should be, on you as the employer, not your staff. Hire more people. Put 2 people on all the time if need be. And if the real problem is that you've underbid contracts based keeping staffing levels lower than the legally required minimum, that's a bad business model you came up with. Sucks for your investors. I work with people with developmental disabilities and there always has to be a staff there. It would be illegal for me to leave without someone coming in to relieve me, so if my relief staff calls out, I have to stay. Also, if I want to pick up extra shifts, I usually have to take something that isn't an overnight, either 7 AM 3 PM or 3 PM 7 AM. It's a little difficult, but you learn to cope. I usually sleep in 2-hour intervals whenever I can get it, cause I'm a single dad of a year-old and I don't have time for a solid 8 hours. So I was late 30s when I became a dad to twin boys. I went from sleeping a solid 7-8 hours a night virtually every night, to basically now not having had an unbroken night's sleep in over 2 years. Some weeks when the sleep is really bad, the degradation to my mental health is hard to overstate. I am extremely angry, emotional, never really used to be, and have no desire, appetite to do anything. It's also self-destructive as all you want to do is eat crap food as at least some kind of reward for the endless hassle. Would not recommend. Sleep, folks. Your body and mind need it. Yeah, I learned not to fuck with my sleep or at least get a good rest real early on in university. I took organic chemistry in the summer and had to get up at 5 AM and take a 3-4 hour class. Afterwards I spent the day studying. I had perhaps 4-5 hours of sleep each day. During the end of summer I was hallucinating and hearing distorted radio noises in the corner of my wall. I was paranoid as well. Did my final and went home and slept for half a day, which solved those issues real quick. Ended up getting a B in the class, which is more than what I expected. I now understand why sleep deprivation is used as a torture technique. Poor sleep. I'm honestly convinced it's why so many people have so many other disorders. Problems. Ever have a couple bad nights in a row? I'm a different person. Many may even have sleep apnea and other sleep issues despite being otherwise healthy and never realize it. I'm almost 40. Weed and alcohol are awesome and always will be. Both fuck with sleep. Please don't repeat the same mistakes I did. Work out, do cardio, sleep. And for fuck's sake eat green vegetables. I once managed, without wanting to not sleep for 4 nights in a row. On the 5th day, I was incapable of explaining to a taxi driver how to get to my house. I just couldn't think straight anymore. It was a terrifying experience. I was sitting on the plane home and wondering why I was on that plane. Because, wait, I lived in that city? Really? Can't remember. In the end I decided to trust my past self who had booked the tickets, because I understood that I wasn't functioning properly anymore. Happened to me once as well. During chemo treatments they had me on steroids that had me vibrating, and plus how horrible I felt from the chemo. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I couldn't get through a sentence without crying. I was so terrified of going through more cycles like that as that was my first one. But I remember specifically how crazy I was at the end of those 3 days. I was delirious and wanted to quit so bad. Luckily I got different meds and the next cycles were much easier. I once tried to go to a research thing I was participating in on too little sleep. Like you, I'm talking days. I made it to the building, but could not recall what the fuck the research thingy was called, what it did, anyone in it, nada. Eventually I aggressively roamed the building looking for a part shaped like the research thingy. Somehow, I eventually found someone, thank gosh. Anywho, no sleep is a crazy, terrible drug. Yep, I suffer from insomnia. One time I couldn't sleep for 72 hours straight. By the end of it I was having moments where I had trouble remembering basic things like where I was, and what day it was, what I was doing. I was also getting paranoid and could have sworn someone was calling my name, which I'm pretty sure is an auditory hallucination. Aside from that, I physically felt like I was drunk. My vision was all wobbly, my movement was all uncoordinated. Bright lights had a slight halo and I swear I was so close to just passing out. Then you have days where you get anywhere between 2-4 hours for a week, and by the end of it you're a complete jittery and emotionally spent mess. I suffer from bad insomnia. I've always had it. It improved for a couple of years, and now it's come back and seems to be complicated by my chronic pain. For me, medically recommended, weed has been a lifesaver, because it helps me sleep. I don't think my sleep is quite as restful after using weed as it was before. But if having to choose between sleeping unrestfully and not sleeping, I will always choose sleeping. I had a period of time as a kid where I was averaging 3-4 hours of sleep nightly for nearly a month. At the end, I had lost weight, I developed panic attacks, and I lost all sense of balance and was falling and injuring myself a lot. I'm happy that I've now found something that means that will never happen again. I wish I was in a job that allowed it. I work 24-hour shifts on an ambulance. I average 4-6 hours at home and 4 hours on a good night at work. Even on slow nights at work it's hard to sleep. I'm in a different bed. I lay there wondering what the next call will be. I tell myself I'll just sleep tomorrow. It's impossible for me to keep a sleep schedule, and my body has just gotten so used to not sleeping that I can't fall asleep naturally anymore. On nights before work, I take double the recommended dose of melatonin and it still takes me hours to fall asleep. I'm constantly anxious and I rarely have an appetite because I'm so tired. Being able to use pot would probably add years to my life. Being able to sleep, being able to eat, I dream of it. The fact that it's still illegal is absolutely shameful. The short answer is strengthening the right muscles. The long and correct one is that but see a physical therapist first and make sure you get your posture assessed and any corrections made. They'll give you exercises to do. Make sure you do them before you do anything else. That part isn't strictly necessary, but a lot of people who jump right into strength training with poor posture injure themselves very quickly. Best to check it out first. I moved to the US from Europe. and most common bread tasted like cake. I finally found a brand available at most supermarkets, Target, Walmart, Kroger, et.al., which is European bread-like, both in taste and nutrition, but more expensive. Sara Lee Artisanal White or Sara Lee Classic Wheat Bread, 100% wheat. I wouldn't even go so far as to say all Sara Lee branded breads are good though. For example, they sell honey wheat, artisanal golden wheat and butter bread, which all taste too sweet. So if you're very picky, you can get good bread in the US, but most people aren't or don't know to be. Plus you'll pay premium prices for good bread. I suspect it's not even down to the work week but the work volume. I moved from working 5-6 days a week at least 6 hours a day as a cleaner to working 2-4 hours a day at the same number of days, and while I make less money I feel a lot better for it. I have no regrets and it's been great. My only issue has been trying to find things to fill the hours in because all my friends are working, but honestly, the benefits to sleep, the pursuit of hobbies, the fact that there's no stress if I have to deal with something. It's been genuinely amazing. Advil, ibuprofen, has increased heart risks, even in people with no existing heart issues. About 19% increased risk of a heart event such as heart failure or heart attack in the 2 weeks after taking ibuprofen. If you have any risk factors for heart disease, especially if you're over 65, you may want to go easy on the ibuprofen. Some people take them daily and may want to be careful. Driving. You're sitting for a long period of time and it's also just super stressful because you have to keep a ton of metal going at a high speed from hitting the other tons of metal going high speeds that are also on the road. When you factor in that you absolutely cannot control what anyone else on the road is doing, whether it be texting or watching and making TikToks, it's a wonder anyone can get in their car without having a full-blown panic attack. Social media usage. I am almost certain there will be massive legal repercussions for damage social media has done, especially to children and young adults who grew up with it. It's been linked to countless mental health issues, ADHD, depression, and anxiety. Boomers were right about it. Our parents were right about it. It is comparable in addictiveness to narcotics such as heroin. I'd even argue it's almost solely responsible for the rise of mental health issues in our youth. The average American spends 7 fucking hours a day on their phone. In 2020, the average screen time was 19 hours a day due to the pandemic. If you haven't watched it yet, please watch The Social Dilemma. There's definitely something weird with how much the anti-plastic efforts, especially from celebrities and really eco-friendly people, are based on it clogging the oceans and killing sea turtles or whatever, when the much bigger concern is what it's doing to us. Part of me wonders if the plastic industry is running controlled opposition. We need to use less plastic to save the sea turtles doesn't play the way we need to use less plastic because it's destroying our endocrine systems does. And when you brush you are putting a base in your mouth in the form of toothpaste which reacts and causes teeth to decay. Okay, I've heard that the acid in vomit is scrubbed around and damages teeth, but this is my first time hearing of the toothpaste thing and it doesn't seem to make sense. Acids and bases generally neutralize each other, resulting in water plus a salt.